Hi friends, and welcome to Happy Planned Homeschool. My name is Tanya. I'm a homeschool mom to 4 kiddos. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, and we are going into our 7th year of homeschooling. In this series, I'm talking about how I feel like is the best way to pick your curriculum for even any given school year. Go ahead and watch the video before this one of how to choose your homeschool curriculum. That video is all about dreaming, and I truly believe you need to know where you're going to go in order to make the roadmap in order to get there. This video is going to be all about actually picking curriculum. Okay, so we have our destination, and remember I use the GPS as an analogy for this process, and I really do believe, as I drop my notes, y'all, I really do believe it's the greatest way to think about it, because we now have our destination, our big dream goal, but now we need to know, like, where are we even at to begin with, right? Where are we starting this road trip at? And for this step, I want you just to kind of think about the past in your kids' education. Were they public school, private school? Did you homeschool? What did and didn't you like about it? Okay, 2 simple columns. We're going to focus on those 2 things from the path when we start moving forward to our destination. But before we can also move forward, we also need to know the rules and the laws of the land. So on this road trip, we need to know what our state regulations are to homeschool. Now, it is legal to homeschool in every state in the US. However, each state has their own regulations of what they require. Some require nothing. Some states, I'm in the state of California, we have to fill out an affidavit if we choose to homeschool privately, and that literally is just saying that we declare our house as a private school. There are multiple charter schools and private schools and other ways that you can homeschool. This year we are part of a public charter, and so I just applied to that charter like I would any public school for my kids. The difference is they just help pay for curriculum. I still do it in my own home, and I have a teacher who advises me and helps me along the way, where I can turn in work samples and things like that. And once we know your state laws, then we can move forward and begin our road trip. Now it's time to pick the curriculum, and this is going back to your big dream. My previous video, I mentioned I wanted my kids to be lifelong learners. Like, that was the most important thing. I heard a stat on a podcast the other day about how over 50% of the workforce on the next generation is going to be self-employed. Over 50%. That is huge. And I mean, you probably know how often and how quick this world changes, and how we have to keep up and we have to keep learning new things. And so it's one of my most important things for my kids as they grow. And in order to do this, I really just see a lot of resources and a lot of books that my kids can pick up at any time and pick up and start learning. Almost like living in a library, but not that quite extreme. Okay, so that's one of my biggest dreams. So I already know throughout the years, I just want to keep on picking up as many resources as I can, so that I can provide that learning experience for them when they feel like learning about something new. When it comes to wanting to pick up something new, they have to be good at reading. So obviously that's going to be one of the first things I look up and figure out how I want to teach my kids to read. Now, you might be an excellent reader and totally remember I comes before E except after C and all those rules. I, however, am not. And so it was very important to me when I picked that curriculum that I was looking at something that took me step by step, and something that wasn't going to bore my kids as we were doing it. And that's when I came across All About Reading. So that's a curriculum that I've used in the past. I'm currently using it with my 3rd child now. It's a curriculum that we love because it is so hands-on and interactive that I don't get bored, and neither do they. Next up, I talked to my husband, and I wanted to know, what's important to you? Like, what do you want our kids to know, right? So, like, I have all these big dreams of my own, but he's part of the equation too. And he began to tell me that he wanted our kids to be good spellers and to be good in math, because you can take math anywhere, and when you have a good strong foundation in it, you use it literally everywhere. Now, he's a mechanic and does things with tires, so he does use math. And when they do work orders and things like that, and his guys don't know how to spell simple things, it drives him nuts. So that's where he's coming from, and he doesn't want our kids to be the same. So I'll begin with math. I knew that I talk backwards, and I'll say it a gazillion times throughout my videos, but I do not always articulate my words the correct way and get my point across. And I did not want to confuse my kids when it came to math. And that was one subject when we talked about homeschooling in the early days that really scared me. So I chose to find a video series that they were able to listen to the instructor and do almost on their own, and I could just assist them when needed. And we began with Matthew C. I love that program. It was exactly what I needed. It had a video that they watched. I could watch it with them and learn alongside them, and then I helped them if they need it. They moved into teaching textbooks, and now they're basically on their own, and I just checked their grade book. And it has been a great fit for our family because I knew personally didn't feel comfortable teaching them. Now, he also said spelling. Spelling is not my strong suit. I'm very grateful for Word Check and programs like it. So I asked him what he wanted out of that and what he felt like would be a good fit. Did he want to teach it? Which, I mean, he works a lot, so I kind of knew the answer. But it's still good to ask. And we found a program I thought was going to be the perfect fit, okay? It was from All About Reading, which is actually All About Learning Press, and it was all about spelling. It's the program what it's called. However, I found that it was very teacher intensive, and because I was already doing All About Reading, which is also teacher intensive, I usually would get to one and not the other. So it was a trial and error. I love All About Reading, but All About Spelling really didn't work for us. So we tried a couple other workbook styles until we came up with the right one. And I tell you this because as much as you think you're gonna love something, you might not, and it might be trial and error. But nonetheless, I knew my destination needed to be a good spelling program. And even though we might have gotten stopped at the light a little bit longer than we wanted to, or even taken a detour around to get back on track, we still got back on track because I knew what my dream was going to be in the end. I was able to keep on going. So I have covered spelling, math, and reading. And if I went back to my dream, I knew that I wanted some subjects at the kitchen table where we school, and some like just relaxed in places we can take our curriculum and go, or even sit on the couch and read. And so I came up that I still needed an art, a history, and a science, okay? And history and science, I knew that we could probably just read out of a textbook, or we could read different living books because my kids do love to read, and we could do that on the couch. And so I began to research history curriculums that fit that criteria. It's good to research the things that you want to do as long as you're always cross-referencing it to your dream. Because when you see like maybe a history curriculum or a unit study that you feel like, oh, that's a lot of teacher intensive stuff. I already knew I had reading that was teacher intensive. I don't know if I could do maybe history or science that was teacher intensive. Always the things that you need to keep in mind that fit your schedule. I also talked about my daily schedule in the last video and how I needed a work hour. So, and some days I want to be done by the end of lunch. You know what I mean? I don't want school to last all day. Some people love that they just come and they go with the flow, and they do maybe do school till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But my kids were young, and I knew I just didn't want that. When it comes to art, I am not an artsy mom. I don't like mess at all. And so that wasn't something that I was like, oh, I really want to do art. Like, yay, let's do art. No. But my kids from a very young age love art. I have a son who just could draw all day long, paint every day he'll wake up in the summertime and be like, what craft are we doing today, Mom? What are we going to do today? What are we going to do today? And I love that about him. Like, that's who he is. However, that's not who I am. And I also said in my big dreams that I want my kids to look back and love their experience in homeschool, but they also saw that Mom loved it too. So I knew if I'm planning art a lot, I'm going to get burnt out and I am not going to like it. However, my kids like it, so we needed to find some kind of compromise. And this, again, could be trial and error, but I just knew if I planned a lot, I wasn't going to like it. But if I planned too little, they are going to like it. So we started with once every other week. And sometimes we wouldn't do an art project, we'd do a science experiment instead. And we just kind of like ebb and flow throughout our school year because they love it, I don't, we meet somewhere in the middle. And I knew that because I had already dreamt about what I want our school days and what I want our big picture to look like. So I knew my expectations of how I needed to go about picking that curriculum. Now you might be thinking, you're missing a lot of subjects. And the biggest one I'm missing is writing. And I left it to the last for a very good reason. I didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it scared me. How do you even begin to teach a kid all the rules of writing? To say the least, I was a little nervous. And I went to friends with this one. I Googled and I YouTubed and I searched high and low. And we have used writing curriculums that I didn't love. I went to homeschool conventions and I looked through things and I bought things, and I felt like every year for the first 6 years of homeschooling, we used a different writing curriculum. And again, if you go back to the GPS, I knew they needed to write because that's just an essential part of learning. I can teach them the basics, but when it comes down to the ins and the outs of writing, all the writing components, I was lost, and I just did not like anything we did. There was many years we started and ended halfway through, and you'll see when you are using a curriculum that your kids may like it a lot more than you do. But even if they like it so much and you don't, you will still get joy in it because you see them getting the joy out of it. It took us joining a co-op and my kids getting outside help for their writing classes for me to be getting on board. And now we love IEW. It is a curriculum that I absolutely adore. And it has been a godsend because my kids have learned so much when it comes to writing. I also knew, though, going back to being lifelong learners and my big dream, that we didn't start writing, like really do grammar and writing in a whole English subject until 3rd grade with my daughter. I really did not feel the necessity that my 7-year-old needed to know what a pronoun, what a noun, what all these ins and out things were, and that was just something that I learned along the way. It's not like they needed to know that, and I felt like it was more like when your kid learns how to walk, they all walk at different speeds, but if you taught a 2-year-old to walk and they never walked before, they would catch on a lot faster than a 9-month-old, right? And so I kind of felt and took that approach to grammar. And then my son came along and he liked to write and he liked to draw, and it just was like comics and books and all the things he would do on his own. So he kind of like skipped ahead and tagged on with my oldest. And so know your family. It goes back to knowing who your family is and being okay with not doing a grammar curriculum right away. Now, we did handwriting, like that's important, but the basics of writing, I waited because I felt like I wanted my kids to play longer. And it just came back to our yearly goals and our big dream goals. So when you're looking at curriculum, please compare everything to your big goal, because that's what matters. I made my big dream. I made my daily dream. I know where I'm starting and what I did and didn't like about like the past. Found out the rules of the land, my state laws, And now I'm picking curriculum based off those things. And I know that if you follow that basic principle of comparing everything to your dreams, you will pick curriculum that will be fitted the best for your school year. I will tell you there will be a few things that don't work. And then when you have a couple years under your belt, you can be like, oh, I really did not like how we were in maybe history, the whole ancient history for a whole year. That got boring. So maybe you'll pick a curriculum next time that goes through the whole cycle of history a year. It just is trial and error, but it goes back to your big dream and following that roadmap to get there. Because if I say I'm going to Disneyland and we both start at the same place, we might not take the same road to get there, and that's okay. The point is we end up at the same place. And as you go through and you pick all the curriculum, know that there's going to be years ahead that you can try new things. There's going to be those years that you maybe cut back because you have a lot of family outside things going on. There's going to be years like this year, I'll just be honest, I want to do all of the things. My littles are at that preschool kinder age, and I just love and want to do like that fun circle time classroom setting where my bigs are being independent and I want to teach them all the things. But I know if I do too much, I'll get burnt out and so will they. So I have to remember, hey, next year they're going to be a little older. Maybe they'll get a little bit more out of it next year compared to this year. Start with the basics. Get your reading, math, and writing down. Then maybe you do start to add in some things along the way. However, just know whatever that dream is of yours, it's completely doable. We just might have to take off a little slower and then move into a higher speed when we hit the freeway. Sometimes there are going to be roadblocks, and that's okay. Sometimes we're going to have to stop at that light a little longer, but just know you'll get to the end. And your kids will be just fine because you were wonderfully and perfectly made to fit them and who they are, and you're capable of teaching them because God put you there. I hope you have a great day. I would love for you to leave a comment below and let me know what your favorite curriculum is. And then as other people watch this, they can go back through the comments and we can all discuss and how this curriculum fit and maybe this one didn't, and the reasons why behind it. I hope you, again, have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye, friends.